You walk into the room and you already feel it. The tension, the judgment, the invisible pressure. It's not loud, it doesn't scream, but it's there. It creeps under your skin, grabs your chest. One glance, one raised eyebrow, one sigh, and your entire emotional state collapses. You try to look composed, you try to breathe, but inside your identity is shaking. You're questioning yourself, your worth, your presence in the moment fades. And suddenly, you're not in command. You're not the leader, you're not centered. You're reacting, you're spiraling, you're bleeding emotionally, silently. You think it's just tension, just pressure, but it's the proof that you haven't trained, that you haven't mastered your state. And that ends now. You've been trained to win, but not to feel, not to lead through pain. You've been conditioned to perform, but not to process, not to confront. That's why your wins feel empty, why your peace is fragile. Because no matter what you achieve, one insult can undo it, one silence can break it, one rejection can derail it. That's not strength, that's emotional weakness. I, Napoleon Hill, didn't teach men to perform. I taught them to command, to master thought, to direct emotion, because emotion directs action, and action shapes destiny. So if your emotions are reactive, your destiny is unstable. That's why emotional intelligence isn't optional. It's not a luxury. It's your weapon, your shield, your armor. It's what keeps you steady when storms come. It's what keeps you sharp when the world softens, and you build it, not by chance, but by discipline, intention, pressure. Let me ask you, how many times have you lost focus because someone questioned you? How often have you walked away from a room carrying a look someone gave you? Replay that. Be honest. You didn't respond. You reacted. That's not masculine energy. That's emotional slavery. And most men are trapped there. They live at the mercy of others' tone. They collapse when misunderstood. They retreat when rejected. But you're not here to retreat. You're here to lead, and you can't lead if your emotions lead you. If every conversation derails your presence, if every conflict rewrites your confidence, that stops today. You will no longer hand your emotional state to the hands of others. You will no longer beg the world to protect your sensitivity. You will harden your mind through awareness, through fire, through the training of a man who refuses to be moved by noise. Noise will come, criticism will come, you will be questioned, disrespected. But what matters is this: who are you in that moment? Do you fold or do you observe? Do you explode or do you assess? Do you fall or do you lead? That's emotional intelligence, not the performance of calm, but the presence of power. And that power is built. Most men avoid it. They suppress pain. They pretend not to care. But suppression is not control. It's silent chaos. And eventually, it erupts. You see it in broken relationships, in silent addictions, in anger outbursts, in regret, because unprocessed emotion doesn't disappear. It redirects. So here's what you do. You train the mind, not just to understand emotions, but to dominate them, to convert them into energy, into insight, into power. You start by tracking your patterns. What triggers you? What weakens your voice? What shifts your tone? Where do you collapse? And why? That's not weakness to ask. That's power. That's work. That's where leadership begins. You dissect every reaction, not to shame yourself, but to rewire yourself, because who you've been is not who you will be. And if you've read this far, you're ready to evolve, to stop pretending you've got it together, and start building the man who actually does. So here's the real test. In your next conversation, pause. In your next disagreement, breathe. When emotion rises, observe it, not to suppress, not to ignore, but to control, to redirect. You are not your emotion. You are not your reaction. You are not your worst moment. You are the man who can rewrite them. Now listen carefully. You've watched other men collapse. You've felt their chaos spill into you. You've seen leaders who couldn't regulate, and you promised yourself you'd be different. Now is the moment that promise becomes action. This is your battlefield. This is your mirror. This is your mission. And the first weapon is self-awareness. From now on, your triggers are no longer secrets. They're signals. Your pain is no longer shame, it's training. Your discomfort is no longer the enemy, it's fire, and fire builds. Comment below the last moment you lost your center. Declare what you're reclaiming. Don't hide it. Don't edit it. Own it. That's where strength begins. And if this message cut deep, then share it, not for attention, for impact, for the man you used to be, for the one still breaking silently. Let this message reach him. Let it light something in him and in you. Then like this video, not as a gesture, as a line in the sand. That your emotional chaos ends now, and subscribe, because here we don't heal with comfort, we rise with clarity, we build under pressure, we dominate through discipline, through the voice of Napoleon Hill, through the fire of emotional intelligence. This is the beginning, the break, the shift, the rise. Now breathe, now focus, now lead. You've crossed the line. The man you used to be can't follow you here. He was built on reaction. This version is forged in response. You've left the world of collapse. Now you're in the world of command. But command isn't a moment. It's a decision you repeat until it becomes instinct. And that instinct only forms in pressure, in fire, in resistance. You're not here to read theory. You're here to harden truth into muscle. Emotional intelligence isn't passive. It's practiced, pressed, proven. And now it must be tested, not in silence, but in storms. Let's start with your mind, not your thoughts, your emotional environment, what lives in your silence, what builds in your pauses, what fear hides beneath your ambition, what shame lingers beneath your strength. Because if you don't face them, they'll face you. In moments you least expect, in conversations that should have been calm, in meetings that demand clarity, in rooms where you're supposed to lead, and instead of leading, you'll flinch, you'll shrink, you'll break. That's not emotional sensitivity. That's untrained energy. That's emotion without regulation. That's why you must master the energy before it explodes. You must study your internal state the same way you study your strategy. Because what good is a plan if one insult destroys your execution? What good is confidence if one disagreement erases your identity? You want real power. Then you need real emotional resilience. And that means you need friction. You need to get in rooms that make you uncomfortable, not to prove yourself, but to train your presence. You need to have conversations that make you sweat, not to win them, but to keep composure while they unfold. You need to be challenged and stay calm. You need to be criticized and stay present. You need to be misunderstood and not break. That's the curriculum, that's the test, that's the edge. So right now, look at your life. Where are you still too reactive? What situations keep pulling emotion from a place you haven't trained? Who are the people you avoid confronting because they expose the version of you that still lacks control? That's your battlefield. That's where we fight now. Because your triggers are not just emotional glitches, they are unprocessed patterns, and you can't evolve while obeying your oldest patterns. Let me ask you again. Who do you become when you're not validated? When you're not respected? When you're ignored? Because that man still runs too much of your life, and he must be replaced, not with noise, not with fake calm, but with real presence. The kind that comes from sitting with pain without shifting identity. You want to know what strength is? Strength is when you hear the insult and nothing inside. You moves. Strength is when they mock your progress and you still show up. Strength is when your voice shakes but your decisions don't. That's real control. And that control comes from training, from slowing your breath when everything in you wants to shout, from anchoring your voice when your nervous system screams, from holding your frame when your ego begs you to fight back. That's what separates kings from pawns. That's what creates respect in silence. That's what people feel before you even speak. They don't follow loudness, they follow steadiness, and steadiness is the result of emotional intelligence. You think that's optional? Look around. Look at the men who react to everything. Look at the leaders who crumble under pressure. Look at the relationships ruined by one conversation. They weren't broken by events. They were broken by reaction. By men who never trained their state, by minds that had ambition but no regulation. Not you, not anymore, because you've chosen to train under Napoleon Hill's code, to live by discipline, to be ruled by clarity, not emotion. So what's next? You test yourself, you create pressure, you don't wait for triggers. You find them, you expose them, and you dominate them. You put yourself in conversations that stretch you, in situations that test you. You track your next emotional spike, and you intercept it. You feel the story rising, and you rewrite it in real time. That's the training. You will not be perfect, but you will be deliberate. And with each repetition, you will become less reactive, more grounded, more certain, more untouchable. Because emotional intelligence isn't just feeling deeply, it's leading precisely. Now comment below, what's the emotional pattern you're choosing to kill today? Let it be public, let it be real. Declare the old version you're burying. Let the world see the man you are now training into existence. And if this hit you, if it punched the version of you that's been hiding, then share it. Be the reason another man rises out of his emotional chaos. Be the reason clarity spreads. Then like this video, not for algorithm, for alignment with the identity you are now commanding, and subscribe, because this isn't content, this is conditioning. And every video you watch here is a rep in the emotional gym, with Napoleon Hill as your trainer, with clarity as your compass, with precision as your pace. This is not the end of your emotion. This is the end of its control. You don't fear reaction anymore. You use it, you study it, you dominate it, because now you lead. You've broken the cycle. But the war is not over. You've stepped into clarity, but chaos doesn't stop. The world still tests you, pressure still hunts you, triggers still wait in silence to reclaim control of your mind. This is why emotional intelligence is not a destination. It is a discipline, a state you protect, a code you reinforce, a power you rehearse daily. Most men forget this. They have a breakthrough and think they're done. They feel calm for a moment and assume they're healed. But healing isn't a feeling, it's a system, a structure you return to when the storm rises again, because the storm will rise, rejection will return, criticism will hit, pain will visit, and if you haven't built your base, you'll collapse again, faster. This time, harder this time, quieter this time. So you build now, not a wall, but a frame. A framework of thought rooted in clarity, not comfort, driven by values, not validation, aligned with discipline, not desire. Let's go deeper. What makes emotional intelligence unshakable? It's not emotionlessness. It's not being cold. It's not being numb. It's control. It's neutrality with fire inside. It's stillness with standards inside. It's the ability to feel everything and still move with precision. Napoleon Hill taught the principle of definite chief aim. But what use is a definite aim if you collapse emotionally before taking the shot? What use is ambition if you're too reactive to execute it? You need a mind that can lead your body through storms, that can guide your actions while pain screams in the background, and that mind is built in pressure. Not theory, not comfort, but tension and repetition under fire. So here's what you must do now. Refine your triggers. You've identified them. Now narrow them. Get specific, not just anger, but what tone triggers anger, what word, what energy, where did it start? When did you first feel that rage? Take control, trace it, map it, learn it, because what you do not define, you cannot dominate, and this is the work most men will never do. Because it's not loud, it's not sexy, it's not performative, but it's necessary. If you ever want to become the kind of man who is unshakable in any room, this man exists inside you. You've seen flashes of him in moments of silence, in glimpses of power, but now we make him permanent, not through motivation, through mechanics. Let's talk mechanics. Your breath, it's not decoration, it's your anchor. Breathe with intention, slow, controlled, deliberate. Every deep breath is a statement to your nervous system. I'm in command. Your voice, it's not just sound, it's signal. Lower it, sharpen it, remove filler words, speak with space, with pause, with certainty. Your posture, it's not performance, it's programming. Stand like a man who doesn't fold, sit like a man who doesn't flee, walk like a man who belongs. These are not tricks, these are reinforcements. Emotional intelligence is not just what you feel, it's how you express it, how you frame it, how you hold it without letting it hold you. And now that you know, you must act deliberately, ruthlessly, daily, because if you don't, you'll fall back into the old emotional code, into default reactions, into soft responses. That sound like strength but reek of fear. I'm just tired. I don't want to deal with this. I'm protecting my peace. You're not protecting peace. You're avoiding confrontation. You're not being selective. You're being scared. Call it what it is, and then kill it, replace it, rewire it, and if this is hitting you hard, good. That's the sign you're ready to face the real work, the deep work, the work that changes, not just how you feel, but who you are. So comment below. What behavior are you replacing? What story are you deleting? What emotion no longer controls you? Declare it, name it, own it, and if this message just punched the old version of you, then share it. Be the reason another man rises with clarity today. Be the interruption in someone else's emotional chaos. Then, like this video, not because it's powerful, because you are, and this is your proof that your training is working, and subscribe. Because what's coming next is not content. It's a blueprint, a system, a framework to lead through storms with emotional precision. You've lived long enough at the mercy of your moods. Now you command them. Now you train them. Now you master them. This is emotional intelligence. This is Napoleon Hill. This is the path of the unshakable. Now go, apply, reinforce, dominate. You've stepped into deeper waters. And now the real test begins. Because the higher your standard, the more pressure will chase you. The more clarity you build, the more chaos tries to enter. The more discipline you display, the more distraction will knock. This isn't a punishment. This is confirmation. Confirmation that you're not average. Confirmation that emotional intelligence is not for the masses. It's for the elite. For the man who refuses to be ruled by anything outside his own frame. And that frame must now be fortified. Let me be blunt. Your enemy is no longer fear, it's fatigue, it's familiarity. It's the emotional laziness that creeps in when the fire fades. Because anyone can train when it hurts, but few continue when it's quiet. That's why you don't just build momentum, you maintain it, you sharpen it, you rehearse it. Because emotion doesn't retire, it hides, and the moment you stop training, it reclaims control. So let's get tactical. What does emotional intelligence look like in motion? It looks like silence when provoked. It looks like breathing when insulted. It looks like pausing when every part of you wants to react. It looks like stillness when the world shakes the table. But this isn't about performance. It's about presence. And presence comes from emotional neutrality, from detachment without disconnection, from awareness without absorption. You see the disrespect. You don't own it. You feel the tension. You don't spread it. You hear the Critique, you don't flinch, because what lives inside you is more stable than what moves around you. This is how kings walk. This is how leaders move. Not from approval, but from alignment, not from emotion, but from standard. And standards must be enforced daily, not just in thought, in speech, in posture, in tone. So let me challenge you. How often do you default to emotional language? I feel like, I don't know, I just... Cut that. Refine your speech. Replace softness with clarity. I think, I decide. I choose. That's the language of leaders. Because emotional intelligence is not just self-awareness, it's self-command. And that command shows up everywhere. In how you walk, in how you sit, in how you react to things that used to shake you apart. But you don't get that by wishing. You get that by wiring, by drilling the standard until it becomes automatic. You're not just training for peace, you're training for war, for emotional conflict, for betrayal, for pressure so heavy that most men fold. And when that moment comes, you will not fold, because you built your responses before they were tested. That's why we don't wait for chaos. We simulate it in our minds. In our habits, in our silence, we imagine the disrespect and breathe through it. We envision the rejection and ground ourselves. We rehearse the critique and move forward, not from ego, from clarity. That's the edge, the mental rehearsal of leadership under pressure. Because if you wait until the storm hits, you're too late. So build now, train now. Visualize your most common trigger. Now recreate it in your mind. Now breathe. Now watch yourself move through it without flinching. Now repeat that tomorrow and the next day until your system knows exactly what to do when it's real. You want to be unshakable, then stop practicing only when it's convenient. Train under tension, speak under stress, lead under pressure, because that's where most men collapse, and that's where you rise. Now tell me, where are you still soft? What's the one scenario that still shakes you? Comment below. Name it, own it, destroy it. And if this message cut through your excuses, then share it. Be the bridge to another man's clarity. Let your evolution inspire someone else's breakthrough. Then, like this video, let it be your proof that emotional command is your new identity. And subscribe, because this isn't a series, this is a system, a step-by-step transformation guided by Napoleon Hill, built through fire, anchored in presence, and forged in silence. You're not just learning, you're becoming. And what you're becoming can no longer be moved by anything external. This is how you walk now. This is how you speak now. This is how you lead now. You are no longer led by emotion. You lead with intelligence. That's power. That's legacy. That's unstoppable. You're deeper in the process now, and with every layer you shed, you reveal the truth. Not about the world, about yourself. Because this journey is not about changing how people act. It's about changing how you respond when they don't. You've seen it. You've felt it. The trigger hits, the emotion rises, and your nervous system hijacks the mission. You get reactive. You lose control. You act from pain, not principle. That pattern ends here. Because emotional intelligence is about detachment from emotional identity. You are not the anger. You are not the fear. You are not the doubt. You are the one who observes all of it and still leads. Napoleon Hill taught us that thought is the beginning of all achievement, but he also warned that thought without control is destruction in disguise. So let's refine this further. What's really happening when you feel disrespected, when you feel unseen? It's not about them, it's about you. It's about an internal standard that hasn't been set high enough, one that still depends on the world's validation. But the emotionally intelligent man doesn't need to be seen. He sees everything, the tone, the shift, the posture, but he responds only to what aligns with his mission. That's the shift. That's the separation between the reactive male and the regulated man. One is loud and fragile. The other is calm and lethal. Which are you becoming? Because emotional discipline isn't just about not exploding. It's about not needing to. It's about reaching a level where your silence speaks louder than any outburst, where your presence does more damage than your anger ever could. That's the level we build here. But to get there, you must do what most avoid. You must sit in the discomfort without escaping it. You feel the emotion rise, but you breathe. You feel the judgment, but you don't chase explanation. You feel misunderstood, but you don't fold your posture, because what lives in you now is greater than what's happening around you. Now let's train deeper. The next time you're triggered, ask this: what story am I telling myself? Is it true? Or is it just emotion trying to feel significant? Because most reactions aren't responses to the world. They're responses to stories you haven't questioned, and those stories, if left unchecked, will dictate your leadership. They'll poison your presence. They'll sabotage your strength. So what do? You dissect them. You write them down. You analyze the trigger. You map your reaction. You trace it to the first time you felt that same pain, and you ask, is this who I still want to be? Then you decide, you replace, you rewire, you move differently next time. That's the practice, that's the real work, not the external wins, but the internal rewiring. Most men never do this. They read, they quote, they perform, but under pressure, they're still reactive because they never trained their system. They never rewired their instincts. You are different because you've chosen the path of internal leadership, of emotional clarity, of presence with fire that doesn't burn. It builds. So now the question becomes, where in your life are you? Still performing peace instead of practicing it? Where are you still talking clarity without living it? Where are you still collapsing when no one is watching? That's where the work must go. That's where emotional dominance is forged. Now comment below, what's the one environment that still shakes your emotional frame? Is it your relationship, your business, your past? Say it, name it. Let the world know that you're not running anymore, and if this message struck deep, then share it. Not to go viral, to go internal, so another man can finally see what true leadership requires. Then like this video. Let it mark the moment you stopped being available to emotional fragility, and subscribe, because what's ahead is deeper, sharper, stronger, and you won't want to rebuild this alone. You'll want the code, the system, the fire of Napoleon Hill, guiding every step forward. This is your path, not because you were forced into it, but because you're finally leading yourself with the kind of intelligence that cannot be shaken. Now breathe, now focus, now rise. You're entering the refinement stage. This is no longer about starting, it's about sustaining, because the most dangerous part of any transformation is comfort. Once the fire calms, once the chaos settles, most men relax. They ease up, they let emotions sneak back in, but not you, because you now understand that emotional intelligence is not an event. It's a structure, it's a daily decision, a war strategy, a repeatable system that you build until it becomes unbreakable code. That code must now govern how you move, how you think, how you show up in every space you enter. Let's get clear. You are not just managing emotions, you are leading them, directing them, harnessing them as fuel, and to lead. Your emotions, you must first respect them, not fear, not flee, but face them. What are you still afraid to feel? Where do you still flinch? When does your breath shift, your tone rise, your posture collapse? Those are your weak points, and a man of mastery doesn't hide from weakness. He studies it, he sharpens it, until the very thing that once broke him becomes the reason he can't be broken again. That's evolution, that's emotional alchemy, turning chaos into command. And that starts with one word: intention. Every day, before the world touches you, you must touch your own mind. Set the tone. Define the standard, visualize the storm, and anchor yourself in it. This is your morning ritual, not motivation, but mental conditioning. You see the insult before it lands. You feel the disrespect before it stings. You experience the tension before it spikes, and in all of it, you remain still, focused, ready, not because you're cold, but because you're trained. And if you train every morning, you lead every night. You don't collapse when the world doesn't act how you expected, because you expected nothing and prepared for everything. This is how you walk now. This is how you breathe now, with presence that can't be disturbed, with power that doesn't need to prove, with silence that speaks louder than most people's noise, and people will feel it. They won't know what changed. They'll just know you no longer bend. You no longer over-explain. You no longer flinch when questioned. You no longer dance to avoid discomfort. You are direct, you are deliberate, you are different. This is the effect of emotional intelligence at scale. It's not just internal peace, it's external dominance. It's power that radiates because it's not dependent on validation. Now let's expand. Look at your life. Who do you still give emotional power to? Who can still shift your energy with one word? Who are you still chasing respect from? Those people are mirrors. They reflect the part of you that still hasn't been claimed, and you don't fix that by running. You fix it by facing, sit with the discomfort, let the trigger activate, but don't react. Breathe, witness, lead. This is what most will never do, because it's not exciting, it's not glamorous, it's not visible, but it's the foundation of every strong man's legacy, the emotional ground on which great men are built, and you are one of them. So now, rebuild how you respond to every pressure. That awkward silence, let it stay awkward. Hold your frame, that passive aggression, let it pass. Don't mirror it, that rejection, let it clarify, not destroy. That's what makes you rare, that's what makes you lead, and that's what rewires the people around you. They'll start reacting less because of your regulation. They'll feel safer because of your stability. They'll trust deeper because your energy doesn't shift like sand. That's the man you're becoming. Now pause, breathe, visualize the next moment that usually takes your peace. Now replay it, but this time watch yourself stay centered. No reaction, no collapse, just presence. Practice that, then practice it again, because repetition is the only path to automatic excellence. Comment below. What emotion are you now leading? What pressure no longer owns you? What version of you just died because you refuse to be ruled by reaction? Write it, share it. Show others that leadership starts where comfort ends, and if this piece of the process resonated, then share it. Send it to the man who needs structure more than applause, to the one who's lost himself in emotional noise. Then, like this video, let it signal to your subconscious that this identity is now non-negotiable, and subscribe, because the next chapter is not just training, it's transformation. It's a masterclass in how emotional power shapes real-world results. You are the proof. You are the model. Now live it. Now own it. Now lead it. You are now beyond the surface, beyond the noise. You've shed the illusions that most men still live inside. Now you're walking with precision. Now your energy is calculated. Now your presence is strategy. But here's the truth. You will still be tested, because evolution invites resistance. Growth attracts pressure. Power awakens challenge. This is not the time to relax. This is the time to double down. Because the closer you get to full emotional command, the more your old self will fight for survival. And if you're not vigilant, you'll slip. Not loudly, quietly, silently, subtly. You'll let one comment bother you for a day. You'll let one look shake your confidence. You'll let one situation reroute your energy. That's the trap. That's emotional relapse, and the only way to beat it is to stay in the fire, stay in the structure, stay in the ritual. Napoleon Hill taught us that self-discipline is the master key to personal power. And your emotions are the first battlefield where that power is won or lost. Let's go deeper. How do you sustain this level of emotional sharpness? How do you protect this command you've worked so hard to build? You create a system, not a feeling, not motivation, a code. This code governs your state. It doesn't matter who said what. It doesn't matter what mood you're in. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. You show up with control, with clarity, with intention, and that intention must be infused into everything you do. Your morning routine, not optional. It's emotional armor. Your journaling, not reflective. It's investigative. It's surgical. Your breathwork, not trendy. It's weaponized. It's regulation. This is how you stay dangerous. By staying disciplined, emotionally, mentally, internally, because the man who controls his emotions controls the room, not because he dominates others, but because he refuses to be dominated by himself. Let's be clear, most men will quit here, not because they're weak, but because the emotional tension feels unfamiliar, feels uncomfortable. And they were never trained to remain calm inside discomfort, but you were. You trained for this. You bled in silence. You rewired your defaults. And now, you protect what you built. So from this day forward, you never negotiate with emotional noise. You never debate with self-doubt. You never argue with your triggers. You identify, you acknowledge, you adjust, but you never regress. Regression is no longer your pattern. Reaction is no longer your identity. Your identity is now built on consistency, on direction, on command, and command is quiet. It doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it doesn't flinch, it just leads, it just decides. It just moves forward, and you move forward. So now it's time to integrate this into your environment. Because true emotional intelligence is not tested in isolation. It's revealed in interaction. Who do you need to confront? Not with aggression, with clarity, with grounded presence. What conversation have you been avoiding? Because it might expose a version of you that still lacks control. That's the one you have right now. You walk into it with your breath calm, your voice still, your posture steady. Not because you want to prove something, but because you don't need to prove anything. That's power, that's command, that's emotional intelligence in action. Now go deeper. What situation still pulls you into reaction? A business deal, a romantic trigger, a family pattern, a betrayal from the past? Bring it to the surface. Don't flinch. Study it. Deconstruct it. Rewire it. This is where mastery happens. In the quiet. Observation of your darkest reactions, because when you master those, you master everything. And once you master everything, you become unshakable. Not perfect, but permanent. Your calm is not a phase, it's a fixture. Your clarity is not a performance, it's a posture. Your silence is not passive, it's strategic. You lead now, not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. Comment below. What situation are you finally choosing to dominate? What trigger are you done being owned by? Say it, write it, mark it, and if this message just reinforced your path, then share it. Let it reach another man who is moments away from emotional breakthrough. Then like this video, because it marks a checkpoint, a confirmation that your identity is now anchored in control, and subscribe, because the next level will demand more fire, more stillness, more truth, and you will be ready, because now you no longer just feel. You lead, you no longer react, you decide. This is your power, this is your peace, this is your legacy. This is the final ascent, the summit of self-command. Not because the journey ends, but because the mission continues without the old version of you, the man who reacted, the man who flinched, the man who collapsed in silence. He no longer walks with you because you've trained beyond him, you've buried him, And now you lead from a place he never had access to. That place is built on emotional intelligence. Not the soft kind they teach you, but the war-forged version that Napoleon Hill revealed when he taught that power comes only to those who master self. And now you know why. Because without emotional control, no other form of control matters. Wealth collapses, relationships fracture, missions fail. If the man leading them is unstable, and that's not you anymore, because you have rebuilt yourself from the inside out. You've rewired your reactions. You've sharpened your stillness. You've silenced the internal noise that used to sabotage your clarity. You are no longer a slave to pressure. You are now a product of it, refined by it, defined by how you lead inside it. That's the legacy. That's the power. That's the truth. And now it's time to give that power a purpose, because emotional intelligence was never just for your peace. It was for your impact. So now ask, where do you need to lead differently? What space demands your grounded energy? Who is waiting for you to show up as the man you've trained to become? Your family, your team, your community, the world. Leadership isn't about attention, it's about direction. And your direction is no longer random, it is rooted, it is real, it is resilient. Because you don't just know what to do, you know how to stay composed while doing it. And that's rare. That's elite, that's unforgettable. Now remember this, you will still face storms, moments where the past version tries to return, moments where doubt knocks again, moments where chaos wants to pull you back into emotional noise. But now you know, that noise is not yours. It's a test, a prompt, a reminder that you are different now. So you breathe, you lead, you stay, you don't collapse, you don't chase. You don't explain, you embody, you exemplify. You express power without performance, and the world will feel it. People will sense that you're not just intelligent, you're emotionally indestructible, because real intelligence is not what you know. It's how you hold yourself when nothing goes your way, and that holding is the final proof that you are unshakable. So as you leave this video, don't leave this mindset. Rewatch when needed. Reinforce daily. Recommit every morning, because mastery is not built on memory, it's built on repetition. Comment below. What part of you did this journey destroy, and what part of you was born from it? Let the world witness that a man has risen. A man who no longer lives at the mercy of emotion, of weakness, of external validation. A man who moves because his mission demands it, not because the world invites it. And if this final piece anchored your identity, then share it. Let it hit another soul who's still lost in emotional storms. Let it pull him into clarity. Then, like this video, mark it, own it. Let your nervous system know that this level is now standard, and subscribe. Because the training doesn't stop. It compounds, it expands, it refines, and together we build the next generation of emotionally indestructible men, of leaders who lead themselves first, of warriors who choose discipline over distraction, power over panic, purpose over passivity. You are that man now. Now go and prove it. In silence, in structure, in storm.